At the intersection of true crime and real estate, you'll find Crime Estate. I'm Heather.
And my name is Elena. As real estate agents and true crime junkies, we view crimes through a different lens.
So walk through the door of some of the most notorious true crimes with us and discover how sometimes the scene of the crime has its own story to tell. Well, hey y'all, thanks for joining us today. I'm Heather and I'm here with Elena and Melanie as always. Hey ladies.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. What about y'all?
Good. I like your glasses.
Thanks. You guys showed up in matching outfits today. Nobody gave me the green memo.
Sorry.
Well, we just thought you were going to be like really collaborating with us. You look really good with the blue.
Yeah.
But green is your color, I think.
I do like green.
Yeah, you look good in green.
Well, Elena, you are covering a murder-suicide story today. One that I imagine was pretty tough to write. You know, I've read through it. I think you did a really great job piecing together today's episode with, you know, your mama's heart and some compassion. But, you know, this is a true crime podcast. We don't always give a lot of disclaimers, but I feel like there's one necessary for today's
there's
episode.
Some trigger warnings, I feel like, definitely. Violence involving children.
Yes,
I guess
exactly.
would be the trigger warning. But yeah, if you've ever scrolled past one of those heartwarming viral family photos, the ones where everyone's smiling and the arms are wrapped tightly around each other, the story's going to hit hard. Today, we're talking about the Hart family. They live in a quiet house in Washington, but the real story was hidden behind Instagram filters. And what ended in a horrifying crash actually started within the walls of their home. So like we said, child violence, child abuse. So we'll try to be as sensitive as possible when discussing.
Yeah.
So that being said, let's jump in. Our story starts in the early 2000s when Jennifer and Sarah met at Northern State University in South Dakota. The two were majoring in elementary education. By 2002, Sarah graduated with an emphasis on special education. Jennifer left Northern State without obtaining her degree. The two remained in South Dakota, living together for years, and they told friends that they were just friends and roommates. Now, this is South Dakota, not exactly New York City, and the two were essentially living as closeted lesbians. When they finally came out to friends and family, they ended up losing a lot of friends. And as a result, Jen later said, quote, the Midwestern mindset was relentlessly unforgiving and unaccepting.
Oh, I hate to hear that.
Yeah, totally. So in 2004, the two decided to leave South Dakota and move to Alexandria, Minnesota, where they lived fully out of the closet, open about their relationship. Both women took jobs at Herberger's, and I had to look that up because we don't have those in Texas. But it's a department store. That's primarily located in the Midwestern U.S.
Like a Kohl's or a Dillard's or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
By 2006, Jennifer left the workforce and became a stay-at-home mom to a 15-year-old foster child.
Wait, they're what at this time? Like they've not been out of college very long. So
Right.
like maybe
So
25, 26,
early
27.
20s, yeah.
And they adopted or fostered a 15-year-old?
Right. So
Wow.
young. Yeah, they were maybe 5 years older than the foster.
Wow.
Yeah. So years later, the first foster child gave an interview to the Seattle Times under the condition of anonymity. Anonymity? Anonymity.
That's one of those words
That's a tough one.
I always have a hard time saying. I'm like, I know what the word is.
Right.
Anonymously, right?
Anonymity.
Okay, that thing.
Anonymous is also a word I have to say
there's some hard
really slowly.
Yeah. So she allowed the Times to refer to her by a variation of her middle name, Lee. In the news article, Lee would state that the first 6 months with the Harts were happy. The three of them would have frequent family outings, going to amusement parks, camping, and other various events. But life began to crack. The family began to argue more, and Lee began to feel stifled by increasingly strict rules.
Yeah, I mean, we're all raising teens here. They can be tough. I did do a little background research into this gal, and it sounds like she was in foster care because like she kept like leaving her parents' home in the middle of the night. They just couldn't like do anything with her. So I think they were trying to instill some rules and values that, you know, this teenager just really was rebellious and not interested in. But
I also think that they were not equipped to be raising a teenager.
Absolutely.
You know, they had a lot going on in their lives at the moment too.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, we're in our mid to late 40s raising teens.
It's mid.
Speak for yourself.
And it's hard at this age. Like I can't even imagine in my 20s doing that. So
Totally.
While you're looking for that, I was thinking about anonymity. I had a listener that I ran into this week, and she was like, hey, I just want you to know you say Social Security like I do. And I was like, what do you mean? And she was like, well, some people say Social Security and you say Social Security.
Oh, social.
And she was like, that drives my daughter batty. And I was like, oh, we probably had listeners in our Mr. Social Security episode.
Where you say it constantly.
Yeah.
See, I say social, but now that I hear you say it, I'm like, oh, that is weird sounding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was just one of those things I'd never.
Yeah.
So thanks, listeners, for calling me out on that.
I hadn't noticed. I say social.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But now we will notice it.
and point it out every time now. So, despite the discord in the home, the pair told Lee of their plans to adopt 3 more children. Lee was going to be a big sister, and the trio seemed excited about expanding their home. Sarah and Jen traveled to Texas to meet the brother and sister they were going to adopt. The mother of the pair was pregnant, and they were planning to adopt the baby as well. Lee, who stayed behind with the family member, recalls that the women would tell her that she was going to be a good big sister and a good influence for the children. But with no explanation at all, a week before the children were set to arrive, Sarah and Jen dropped Lee off for her regular appointment with a therapist, and they never returned to get her.
That is so awful.
I know. I can't imagine the heartbreak.
Like they had set up with the therapist, hey, we're no longer going to foster this child. It wasn't like they were left floundering and nobody just showed up to pick her up at the end of the appointment. But like, can you imagine she walks into the therapist office and she's like, I have something to tell you.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. The therapist sat Lee down and explained to her that Sarah and Jen would not be returning and that she was going to live with a new foster family immediately. And even worse, when the new family picked her up and took her to the new home, all her belongings were already there.
I mean, I got to imagine the therapist gave some feedback that this was not the right way to do this.
Right. Yeah, I would hope so.
Well, and she didn't get a chance for closure or goodbye with them. And, you know, she's probably already feeling rejected, but just to be like, what did I do wrong? Why?
Right. Yeah, exactly. No closure. Not to give the rest of the story away, but it's probably a blessing in disguise for her that occurred. In 2006, the couple took in 3 siblings from foster care in Texas: Marquise, 7, Hannah, 4, and Abigail, 2.
These are the same kids.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Fast forward 2008, the Harts took in 3 more siblings from Texas: Devontae, 5, Jeremiah, 4, and Sierra, 3. And I don't know if this is still the practice, but at the time, Texas was paying a nice stipend for adopted foster kids who were placed in the care of a family outside of the state. And if you adopted siblings, you were given even more. It's reported that Jennifer had received more than $270,000 for the children while they were in her care.
Wow.
Yeah.
I, not to digress, but I went down a rabbit hole and was researching. There was definitely some exposés after all this comes to light in the Texas adoption system because in both scenarios these kids were adopted by these ladies really quickly and without a lot of background investigation. There seemed to be a bit of a cottage industry in Texas, at least in this time period, of adopting groups out of state. There was definitely some suspiciousness going on.
I wonder why, like from a financial standpoint, is that like take them out of state and then we're not paying for their school. I don't know. Like there has to be an economic reason that they want to do that.
Yeah, I don't know. But they pay them until they're 18.
Yeah. And I knew that families that foster children do get, a stipend. I did not realize if you adopted them, you also got a stipend.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
Yeah, which makes sense. I mean, if you're willing to take, let's say, a 3-year-old into your family, but you don't stay at home, like you're talking about childcare, you're talking about feeding them and clothing them. And I'm sure most of these foster families have very generous hearts, but you do have another mouth to feed.
Right. Yeah, it's true. On social media, they referred to themselves as the Hart tribe, and they appeared to be a progressive early 2000 family, like the model of that. 2 white lesbian mothers and 6 adopted Black children. So we're now in September of 2008, and teachers started noticing signs of abuse on Hannah. A teacher asked her about the bruises on her arm, and the little girl said that her parents whipped her with a belt. It's unclear exactly what came of this, but we do know that no charges were ever filed, and it appears as though whatever happened caused the Harts to pull their kids out of school for almost a year before re-enrolling them.
That's interesting. I do wonder if sometimes teachers, God bless them, worry that if I report this, will they be pulled out of school? And is that more dangerous? Because then we can't monitor what's happening.
They're
They're required, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's tough. So fast forward again to November of 2010, and the kids are back in the school system, and teachers notice signs of abuse on a 6-year-old Abigail. The girl told investigators that her mother, Jen, had held her head under cold water and had punched her because they believe she had stolen a penny they found on her. Minnesota Child Welfare Services later said it had received 6 troubling reports of abuse or neglect from the Hart family, 2 of which were deemed to be founded. In one of these credible instances, they found that the parents had physically harmed Abigail, causing bruises all over her body. A spanking ensued, which Sarah Hart said, quote, got out of control. Sarah took the blame for striking Abigail. As a result of this abuse investigation, the couple agreed to in-home therapy, counseling, and other skill-building activities. Additionally, Sarah was convicted of misdemeanor domestic assault and sentenced to probation and 1 year of community service.
But at this point, I mean, that's horrific. But at this point, they have adopted these children. Yes. It's not just the foster care system. So they can't remove them. They are legally their children.
Right.
So they would have to start proceedings if they wanted to remove the children. Okay.
Yeah. It just seems still, though, that that's not a good punishment, I guess, for what they found. But I don't know what other alternative punishments there are.
Yeah. I mean, holding the kid's head underwater.
Because they think she lied about stealing a penny.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not surprising that police interviewed the other Hart children in the process. The children told the investigators that they were often spanked, denied food, and grounded. As a result of the investigation, Jen and Sarah decided to pull their kids out of school for good and move to a different state. The 6 Hart children would now be totally isolated from outside influences and anyone who could perhaps notice the abuse they were subjected to.
I mean, if you're moving out of state, so then the local, the Texas Child Protective Services would now, it would take a while for it to all catch up to, this is bureaucracy.
Right.
Well, and we've seen that in some of the other stories we've covered where, a crime happens in one state and then quickly happens in another, but the two aren't talking to each other. Yeah.
Yeah. In 2013, the Hart family packed up and left Minnesota behind, heading west to West Lynn, Oregon, a quiet, picturesque suburb just outside of Portland. They rented a cozy house and even started a bit of a homestead, raising goats and chickens in their backyard. Just like before, Sarah worked full-time while Jen stayed home with all 6 kids. Now, if you had met them around this time, chances are it would have been at a music festival. The Harts quickly became regulars in the festival scene, the kind of events that stretched on for days and centered around music, yoga, and community, and a shared sense of social awareness. They stood out not just because of their size, but because they looked like the picture-perfect family. The kids would dance and sing with wild abandon, and people often commented on how free-spirited and joyful they seemed. From the outside, it all looked kind of magical. And that's exactly the image Jen Hart wanted people to see. She crafted an online persona that was as deliberate as it was idealistic. Her social media feeds were packed with bright, happy photos, the family on road trips, embracing nature, hugging at festivals, and every caption read like a manifesto on love, acceptance, and raising kids in a broken world. People who followed her called her a master poster. Her posts were long, emotional, and filled with deep reflections about life, parenting, and the fight against injustice. To most, it looked like the Harts had built something really rare, a modern-day tribe rooted in love, unity, and purpose. But as we know, appearances can be deceiving.
I saw one photo, and I'm sure there are thousands of pictures out there of her social media, but it was out in snow, and it was 2 of the brothers, and they had a thermos with the coffee cup, and they were looking and smiling at one another. And it was so obviously staged.
Oh.
And no, that's not what the kids are doing. They'd be throwing stuff at each other. They're not sitting quaintly in the snow with their little toboggans, having their hot chocolate. I mean, we've raised boys.
Yeah. A little more idealistic and staged.
Mm-hmm.
And just like back in Minnesota, not everyone was buying the picture perfect narrative.
Yeah.
In fact, not long after the Harts settled into their new life in Oregon, some people began to sense that something wasn't right. In 2013, a concerned individual reached out to the Oregon Department of Human Services and said something that really stuck with investigators. They said, quote, "The kids pose and are made to look like one big happy family, But after the photo event, they go back to looking lifeless.
Oh, that's so sad.
That is heartbreaking.
So sad.
The illusion that Jen worked so hard to maintain online, it was starting to crack in real life.
Mm-hmm.
Others noticed how thin the kids looked, much smaller than they should have been for their ages. Another tip came in from someone who said the children acted like, quote, trained robots and seemed, quote, scared to death of Jen. These weren't just throwaway observations, they were red flags, clear signs that something was seriously off behind the smiles and sunshine-filled Instagram posts.
And which one stayed at home with them, Jen or Sarah?
Jen.
Jen, okay.
Then there was a family friend in California, someone who had actually let the Harts stay with them for a while. What they described was chilling. They told investigators that Jen ran the household like a military boot camp. Every move was controlled, every moment monitored. And when it came to how the kids were treated, the friend didn't mince words, saying, quote, true kindness, love, and respect for the kids was largely absent. Those are their friends.
Yeah.
That's wild.
I have so many questions about that. Like, these people are in your house. Do you not, we have conversations about parenting all the time.
Right.
Yeah. How does the friend not say, like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, would you say that to me if I brought the boys over and they were looking crazy or thin?
Yeah.
Or,
I'd be like, hey, they don't seem like themselves. Is everything
you
okay?
said that before. So yeah, you totally would. Yeah.
Yeah.
So while the world was busy liking and sharing photos of the Harts as this progressive, joyful family, the kind people aspired to be, those who got close enough started to wonder.
Yeah.
Eventually, the growing number of complaints caught up with them. In August of 2013, child welfare officials showed up at the Hart home. They wanted to speak with the kids and the mothers to get a sense of what was really going on behind closed doors. When investigators sat down with the 6 Hart children, their answers were eerily consistent. Every one of them insisted there was no abuse. They said they were happy, grateful even, for their family life. But here's the thing. Their words might have sounded reassuring, but their body language told a very different story. One investigator noted that the children, quote, showed little emotion or animation. Think about that for a second. 6 kids, no spark, no light in their eyes, nothing that resembled the joyful, carefree, dancing people they saw at festivals. Just flat practice responses, like they'd rehearsed exactly what to say. And just like that, the investigation fizzled out. There was no evidence to act on, no bruises, no broken bones, and no one willing or able to speak up. The Hart slipped through the cracks again.
So sad.
It's sad.
And I mean, it's what do the investigators do at that point? They've got suspicions.
Right.
But
yeah,
their hands were sort of tied.
Yeah.
Other than keeping an eye on things. And then they up and move again.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. But I guess, so when they're adopted, they just don't keep track of it anymore. Like, it's not like you have to like check in and make sure.
I don't think so. I mean, I think the adoption's like just your kid. It's crazy. They wouldn't check in on that any more than the government would check in on our kids.
Yeah. Yeah. By 2017, the family had quietly relocated once more, this time to Washington State. On paper, it was just another move for a free-spirited family following their own path. But in reality, it was another fresh start, another reset, and a place where no one knew them. The 2 women and their 6 adopted children settled in Woodland, Washington. The Hart family lived in a rural, tree-lined area near the Columbia River. It's private and quiet and the kind of place where you go unnoticed. Their home sat at the end of a long driveway surrounded by woods, seemingly idyllic, but also completely isolating.
And I looked up. Woodland, Washington is really at the very south of Washington State. So it's like an exurb of Portland. And so it's because Portland's right on, close to the border of Oregon and Washington. And to this would be sort of just north of it on the I-5 major highway thoroughfare. But yeah, this was definitely more of a wooded, pristine area.
Gotcha, yeah. After several years of renting nearby, the Harts purchased a home at 2501 Northwest 389th Street in Woodland, Washington.
That's a mouthful.
That is a mouthful.
That to me is like these rural areas where they don't I live on Ridge Road or I live on Lawn. It's just a number,
right.
Or a lot of times the county roads and things like that. They just have numbers in the name of the street.
Right. This rural 2-acre, 3-bedroom, 2-bath home was 1,900 square feet, 2-story contemporary craftsman home. And in 2017, the pair bought it for $375,000. It was built in 1995, and the real estate description of the home when they bought it was private setting, 2.19 acre property, Woodland address, La Center schools, updated home, new carpet, new roof, large great room with lots of windows, fireplace, laminate floors, patio, updated kitchen with built-in pantry hutch, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, craft room / den, large family / bonus room, all appliances, oversized 2-car garage, 2-stall barn with storage room, pasture and paddocks, chicken coop, RV parking, beautiful property with mountain views.
That sounds gorgeous. And if I liked these people and they were like living their best bohemian life in a good way, this sounds like the perfect property for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they could do their kind of homesteading, farming, get some chickens. I mean, yeah, it does seem to go with the vibe that they were presenting to the world.
Yeah, totally. But do you have a problem with that write-up? I feel like you would.
I mean, it's just a lot of bullet points.
It's a lot of
in
bullet points.
Paragraph format.
There's no story there.
Yeah.
It's definitely, a check the box of everything. I mean, it's not the worst I've seen, but it's definitely not like a big story.
Right.
I mean, the person didn't use exclamation points. So that's
a win.
A star
Yes.
in my book.
God, there's been some of them that like every sentence has an exclamation point. This one has 0.
I mean, the house sounds really nice, though.
Yeah, it sounds lovely. And like we said, Sarah was working as an assistant manager at Kohl's, making $45,000 a year, and they received the additional $41K-ish a year as payments from the state of Texas, intended for the children's upbringing and care as adoption assistant service.
So they really
payoffs.
probably needed that money to buy the house. I mean, if you're making $45,000 a year, a $375,000 house is a stretch.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. And remember with these adoption assistance payments, they end when the children goes 18. So as each of these kids starts to get closer and closer to that age, they realize, their income is going to be dramatically reduced accordingly.
Right. Yeah.
Well, and we've got a picture up of the house, and there were a ton of interior photos still online too, which I thought was interesting. Usually they pull those down on somewhat infamous properties, but it's a very Midwestern kind of home. Like you walk in and it's a split level. So like there's a set of stairs that go up just a little bit and a set of stairs that go down. So yeah, it was an interesting property for sure.
Yeah.
I did like the trees all around it were very pretty.
Yeah. So from the outside, the Hart home looked like a peaceful retreat, cedar siding, wraparound porch, tall pines. On paper, it's the kind of home families dream of, but inside, the story was far darker. The kids were homeschooled, isolated, and reported as being underfed. One neighbor said the children would sneak out to ask for food. The location gave the Harts control: no teachers, no school nurses, no unexpected visitors. But there were neighbors. Now, this next paragraph is quoted from an article I read. The woman who called authorities said that 6 months earlier, Hannah had jumped out of a second-story window at 1:30 a.m. and bolted inside the woman's home, asking to be hidden. Hannah told the woman's husband that she had been whipped with belts and that her mothers were racists, and begged the woman not to force her to return home. The neighbors, Bruce and Dana, noticed that the young girl was missing her 2 front teeth. She also said she wanted her neighbors to hide her and exclaimed, "Don't make me go back. They're racists and they abuse us." Soon after, Jen Hart showed up at the DeKalb's front door and took her daughter back home.
By the way, nope. The mother and me would bite tooth and nail to like make sure that child protective services were called immediately.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, at 1:30 in the morning, that's terrifying.
Yeah.
I watched a great Apple TV special on this case, and they interviewed these neighbors quite a bit. And she said, like, look, we've lived next to kids before. It was so eerily quiet. Like they would file out down the back door to go outside, but they weren't really allowed to like play, or they weren't loud and rambunctious. She was like, it was like there weren't even kids living there.
Sad. Sad. So quoting from another article here, the next morning, all 8 members of the Hart family went to the DeKalb's house, and Jen explained to them that the kids were, quote, drug babies. which is why they acted out sometime. And also said that Hannah's birth mother was bipolar and that her front teeth had been knocked out when she accidentally fell. When Dana DeKalb asked to speak to Hannah alone, Jen replied, "We do everything as a family." Hannah then handed the DeKalbs a handwritten note apologizing for her actions the previous night and saying she lied and was trying to get attention. Dana DeKalb told her father about the bizarre encounter, and he reported Jen and Sarah to authorities. No follow-up action was taken.
Yeah, that same episode I watched had like the 911 call that her dad made.
Oh, wow.
And he just said, like, my daughter told me about this and I just can't let it go. Like, somebody needs to go out and check on these kids.
Oh, it's heartbreaking.
And so this is 2017, 2018 almost at this time period. And there have been repeated in multiple states, at least, I don't know, allegations or to authorities for 3-4 years now.
So the neighbor also said that Devontae, who interestingly enough was famously photographed hugging a police sergeant during a 2014 demonstration, had been coming to their house 2 or 3 times each day, asking for food and begging the woman not to tell his mother about the requests. Devontae told the caller that his parents punished him by taking meals away. He also claimed that he and his siblings were being hidden from view and they were sometimes abused, according to the department's intake report.
Yeah, apparently he came over and asked for bread. And she said, I don't eat bread, but I have tortillas. And so she went out and got him like the big Costco stack of tortillas and sent it home with him. And then he came and he asked for like 6 jars of peanut butter. Like, I think the kids were just going to try and hide peanut butter in their room.
I mean, I'm glad that they had reported it, but good God, why wasn't this being taken more seriously?
Right. Several months later, in March of 2018, Devontae Hart approached Bruce DeKalb while he worked on his truck in front of his house. The 15-year-old boy asked DeKalb if he could have something to eat and nervously asked him not to tell his parents. DeKalb gave the boy food, and then this happened a few more times. Devontae then gave his neighbor a wish list of food and asked DeKalb to leave the items in a box by a fence where his parents wouldn't notice. After several visits from Devontae, the DeKalbs decided to alert authorities again. On March 23, 2018, Dana DeKalb called Child Protective Services. A CPS worker visited the Hart house and after no one answered the door, left their card at the door. The following day, Saturday, March 24th, the DeKalbs noticed that the GMC Yukon, usually parked next door, was gone. Sarah Hart had texted her coworkers at 3 a.m. and told them she was too sick to come to work. No one knew it then, but the Harts, perhaps fearing authorities would uncover abuse and neglect, decided to once again leave their home as the family had in Minnesota and Oregon. As the 8 members of the Hart family drove south along Highway 1, there would be no stopping for group photos or lengthy Facebook posts about the many joys of family life. Instead of looking for a new town and a new home to settle in, the Hart tribe was headed for a different, deadly destination. The last sighting of any of the members of the Hart family alive was at a Safeway grocery store in Fort Bragg, California, on the morning of Sunday, March 25th. A surveillance camera captured Jen Hart paying for $20 worth of groceries.
Okay, and this is hours south. I mean, because remember, where they lived was in Washington State, but just north of the Oregon border. And I've driven this route from Portland down to California. And I mean, it's a very scenic, very beautiful, but it's a long route. This is not something you go for a joyride. This is something you're going to have gotten gas multiple times.
Okay, yeah. The following day, Monday, March 26th, the family's Yukon was spotted belly up on the rocks at the bottom of the cliff, only a 25-minute drive from the Safeway store. As investigators released details of the crash, the details finally came to light. The scene and the GMC Yukon's computer and airbag controllers were analyzed for information, and the story they told was disturbing. Jen Hart was at the wheel of the Yukon, in control as always. She pulled off of Highway 1 onto a gravel turnout and stopped the vehicle 70 feet from the cliff. She then accelerated the car to roughly 90 miles per hour and without touching the brakes, investigators found no skid marks, plunged the car off the 100-foot cliff onto the rocks below, killing herself and her entire family. As the car was in motion, Sarah was busy with searches. She was searching, how easily can I overdose on over-the-counter medications? Can a 500 milligram of Benadryl kill a 125-pound woman? How long does it take to die from hypothermia while drowning in a car? No one in the car was wearing a seatbelt. It was later determined that Jen Hart had alcohol in her system above the legal limit and that Sarah and 2 of the children had taken antihistamines that caused drowsiness. On April 8th, nearly 2 weeks after the crash, 12-year-old Sierra's body was recovered. Hannah's remains were positively identified in January 2019, and Devontae Hart's body was never found, but authorities believe he also perished in the crash. 9 months after the horrific crash that killed the 8 members of the Hart family, many questions remain. Was the decision by Jen Hart to kill herself and her family a spontaneous one, or had it been planned when they hastily drove away from their home in Woodland? Are you okay?
It's really a lot.
Yeah.
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 Those sweet babies.
I know.
You know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is a really... I don't get like emotional, but this one's really tough.
When we were talking offline before we started recording this, that obviously there were some mental health issues going on between the adults in this house. Because I think, I mean, I'm not an investigator, but if you have one person driving and one person Googling, like, can this kill you? How quickly can you die from this? That sounds like a together plan to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Usually when you hear about murder-suicides with parents involved, it's like one parent is the murderer, but it seems like both of them were the murderers here.
Yeah.
At what point do you stop saying it's a mental health issue and just like they were evil people?
I don't know.
I mean, I think there's a fine line between evil people and mental health, and I tend to want to believe the best in people. But remember Jen was, she had dropped out of college and was going to be like a teacher, wasn't she supposed to be? So maybe they had, had a desire for a family, and I don't know. And then they found the loophole where she didn't have to work because they could get money from it. I don't know. It's a horrible, horrible scenario.
When authorities entered the Hart home as part of the investigation that occurred...
And just to stop you, wasn't it that they were going to the house not because they had found the bodies yet? They were going to the house, part of that CPS investigation that they had come the day before looking...
Oh, I didn't put that together.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, it was all kind of coincidental in timing that they had actually come the day that the bodies were found as well.
Okay. When authorities entered the Hart home as part of the investigation that occurred afterwards, it seemed neat, orderly, and newly remodeled, said investigator Jake Slates from the California Highway Patrol. But while Jennifer and Sarah's were decorated, Slates said the children's rooms were bare. Investigators noticed that their luggage was left behind and the family did not take their toothbrushes before leaving for 2 days. In my opinion, Sarah and Jennifer succumbed to a lot of pressure, said Lieutenant Shannon Barney of the Mendocino County Sheriff's Office. They got to the point where they made a conscious decision to end their lives and take their children with them. As Jennifer drove down US 101 highway, she had 5 beers in her system, enough to make it difficult for her to function, according to Slates. Witnesses told police that Jennifer rarely drank. The theory is that she drank to build up her courage, Slate said. My feeling is based on talking to witnesses that they felt if they couldn't have those kids, no one was going to have those kids, Slate said. I don't know if that's true. I think there's evil people. I don't know if they were mentally... I don't buy the mental health issue with these people.
Okay.
And I also don't feel like...
You're allowed to have that prerogative.
What did he say? If they feel like... Oh, they felt like if they couldn't have those kids, no one could have those kids.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what are they...
I don't think that they loved those kids.
No. Mm-mm.
I think they were just trying to cover up what they thought was about to come out. They had been running from problem, and now... Like they probably felt like everything was about to come crashing down in on them.
Right. So after investigators entered the split-level home, investigators could not tell where the kids slept. The 3 bedrooms and bathrooms were on the top floor overlooking the wooded yard. While the parents had a double bed in their bedroom, elsewhere in the house there was only 1 twin bed and 1 bedroom surrounded by remodeling supplies. In the 3rd bedroom, there was a couple of love seats and a padded mat, where presumably some of the kids also slept. No family pictures were displayed in the home, and the bedrooms did not contain any keepsakes or children posters or personal items that would indicate that children and a teenager lived there.
I mean, that's crazy. I mean, we have kids. I mean, we all have lots of evidence, more evidence than we may want sometimes of our kids' hobbies and interests and, just knickknacks, etc. I saw a really creepy detail about this house. From a CNN article. and they showed like it was a picture of like a wall in the living room where there were frames, hung up on the wall, and like the type of frames, where you might have like 3 family photos, like one on top of each other from like a vacation or the kids growing up. However, all these picture frames were empty. Like all of where the pictures were supposed to be was just like when you bought it from Michael's, where it had that picture saying the frame's measurements, saying a 4x6 photo goes here or something like that. So they had hung the frames without inserting pictures into them.
That's really weird.
Yeah, there wasn't any depth there, right? It was all just very like, we have these kids. The kids need to act this way. This is what we expect. Like, there's no warmth.
Right.
Or genuine affection.
Right. Yeah. As investigators continue to try to unravel this great mystery, they realize that some questions will never be answered, and that many of the answers washed out into the Pacific when the Yukon carrying the 8 members of the Hart family plummeted into the ocean.
Yeah, I mean, because they never really figured out why.
Right.
There was no suicide note, etc.
Yeah.
Did they ever find Devontae's body?
I don't think so.
No.
We touched on it briefly, but that picture of him hugging the police officer from the protest in Ferguson, there was so much hurt in his eyes. And now looking back on it, it wasn't just because of the social situation going on. I think that's like deep-seated, like internal grief.
Yeah, he was like bawling, hugging this police officer, and the photo went viral.
Yeah.
And I saw, I think it was Jen that said it later, that that picture going viral was really hard. Like, people were reaching out to them and they wanted to interview Devontae on like the local news. And she ended up shutting down her social media for a while just because it was too overwhelming. But I think probably her biggest concern was really like,
too much publicity.
Exactly. We need to stay isolated to keep our secret. Like, if we're going on the national news and people are meeting with him, are they going to see bruises on his arm or
wonder why he is so skinny? And I think a lot of times, I think when she was saying, oh, these were drug babies. I mean, I think like, the regular middle class America, we don't really know what like drug babies is, other than it sounds really scary and tragic. And so I think that people might be willing to go, oh, well, I mean, it's not, they came, from a different family background, and maybe they are collecting food, because maybe when they were little kids, they didn't have food. And so this is some of their trauma that they're dealing with. I don't know. I'm just saying that like, these are what the stories maybe the neighbors were telling themselves to reconcile it.
Okay, yeah.
Well, and I do think we always look for the easiest answer, right? You don't want to immediately jump to they're abusing 6 children.
Right.
You are trying to find a story that suits a different, more positive narrative.
Right. Yep.
I think that's just our human nature.
Yeah, I agree. There's no easy segue, but we got to talk about the house. And what happened with it. Okay.
Yeah, let's do that.
So the home was seized by the bank in 2018 and sold off market. Some reports say it sat empty for a while due to the stigma. The last Zillow listing is from 2020. And so what it says. This is the one you've been waiting for.
Exclamation mark.
Exclamation point. Close in, 2.19 usable acres in Woodland, fully fenced and ready for your mini farm. Raised beds, fire pit, huge patio, chicken coop, dog runs, 3-stall barn with storage room and fenced pasture. House of many updates as well. Bathrooms, updated kitchen, beautiful laminate flooring, wood fireplace insert, large vinyl window, allowing lots of natural light, newer roof, plus RV parking. This one is move-in ready and ready for you. Call today with questions.
I do think that's a better listing. Like, it's more kind of exciting. Like, I can move in right away. It's multifaceted. And let's see, how many exclamation points? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Oh, 5. Oh.
Yeah. So,
you look annoyed.
I am annoyed. It is a better description.
It's better.
Minus the exclamation point.
Yes, totally. It sold in April of 2020 for $450,000.
Okay.
So would you live there, list it?
I'm a yes on both.
Okay.
1, nobody died in the house. 2, the neighbors were so lovely. I feel like I would like to be a nice family that moves in and give them better, happy memories in this house. And it sounds idyllic. I mean, 2 acres out in the woods on the riverbank. It sounds lovely. So yeah, I'm a yes for both.
Okay. I'm a yes for listing and a no for living there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just because abuse occurred there.
And not even the abuse, just thinking about how the kids died. I don't know. It's something about it would creep me out.
What about you, Mel?
Yeah, hard no.
On both?
Well, I'm not a realtor, but I probably would do whatever I could. So, in that regards, but just in the kids, yes, they did not die there. But, sometimes we've talked about in other stories where children have died. Oftentimes, a lot of the stories we've talked about maybe are not even if historic, but decades have passed or so. And so there's usually oftentimes been happy memories that have occurred since then. Mm-hmm. I don't know how many happy memories have occurred in the time period to sort of give better juju to the house. It just makes me really sad.
Yeah.
It is. If y'all have gotten this far into the episode, thank you for sticking with us because it was a really difficult story to cover. But it's an important one for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for letting me tell the story.
I'm glad you did. If you all like the podcast, please tell your friends, subscribe, leave comments on Spotify. We're getting 1 comment a week and I really enjoy listening to them and replying to them.
It's exciting.
Yeah. Some guy wanted us to know that Norway was not a very happy country.
Oh.
I'm like, what episode did we even talk about Norway?
I don't know.
But thanks for commenting.
Yeah.
Comment and we'll see if we call you out on next week's episode. But no, seriously, this is sort of a passion project for us, and it's always nice to get a little bit of support from you guys. So subscribe, leave us a 5-star review, and tune in again next week.
Thank you.
Bye.
Hey, y'all. Thanks for listening and being a part of our Crime Estate family.
If you're curious about today's featured crime estate, you can find additional photos and details from today's episode online at crimeestate.com. or on Facebook and Instagram by following at Crime Estate Podcast.
Have a crime estate we should cover? Let us know. Shoot us an email at crimeestatepodcast@gmail.com. Until next week.